Hello, good evening, and thank you for joining us today, the 27th of September 2023, to present Camnet Television News. My name is Jeffrey Siambo. The top stories in the news tonight. Bishop TELESPHORE MPUNDU questions Chief Justice MUMBA over gay rights endorsement allegations. The opposition Patriotic Front rejects the appointment of MWAMBA as Auditor General. The state asked the court to dismiss a case questioning President Hakainde Hichilema's foreign trips. In international news, many families in South Africa are grappling with poverty. And in sports news, in Morocco to host the 2025 African Cup of Nations finals.
It's not by the efforts of one, but by the combined efforts of many. You're going to reach people that nobody else can reach. The glory of God's going to run through this land.
And there's nothing the devil can do to stop it.
I come and light a fire and watch it burn. God's not finished with Africa. The Lord will forge in you that which He wants you to do. God has raised you up for this hour.
Thank you again for joining us. The news in detail. Opposition Patriotic Front presidential aspirant Miles Sampa has filed a certificate of urgency before the Lusaka High Court in a case where he cited the party vice president Given Lubinda and party secretary general Raphael Nakachinda for contempt. According to his certificate of urgency, Mr. Sampa tells the court that the matter is of extreme urgency because Mr. Lubinda and Mr. Nakachinda are busy convening meetings and acting in total breach of the injunction on record. He has alleged that the duo is threatening to expel him from the Patriotic Front party. In this matter, Mr. Sampa has commenced contempt proceedings against the duo, arguing that Mr. Lubinda appointed Mr. Nakachinda as Secretary General of the party, knowing well that the court directed that they desist from acting as such. In February 2023, Lusaka High Court Judge Timothy Katenekwa granted Mr. Sampa an ex-party order of interim injunction restraining Mr. Given Lubinda and Mr. Nixon Chilangwa from holding themselves out as acting president and secretary general of the PF until the final determination of Sampa's suit against them. The state has asked the Constitutional Court to dismiss with costs a case where Patriots for Economic Progress leader Sean Tembo has petitioned it over the numerous international trips by President Hakainde Hichilema. The government, through the Attorney General, submits that all the foreign trips undertaken by the president have brought major investment in the country. In this case, Mr. Tembo has sued the Attorney General seeking an order that President Hakainde Hichilema be cited for abuse of authority of office and waste of public resources through the undertaking of numerous unnecessary foreign trips. However, in response to his petition, the state has argued that there is no number of prescribed foreign trips a president must undertake. The state submits that it is a constitutional requirement under Article 265 that a public office shall be adequately funded to enable it to effectively perform a function. The Attorney General has further told the Constitutional Court that the investment realized from the President's foreign trips forms part of the Treasury and promotes the equitable development of the country. The Department of Social Welfare in Luwengu district of northern Zambia has come to the aid of Judith Nsofwa of Kuta village in Luwengu district, whose 5-year-old daughter is struggling with brain cancer. This came after Ms. Nsofwa's ordeal was aired on Camnet TV News a week ago. District Social Welfare Officer Priska Mwanza explains that the department has decided to come to Ms. Nsofwa's aid owing to the vulnerability and urgency of her situation. And speaking after receiving a bicycle, Ms. Nsofwa thanked the government for the donation and plans to enroll her in the social welfare program. More in the following report.
Government has come to the aid of a Luwengu-based woman who was recently aired on Camnet TV News asking for assistance with upkeep for her 5-year-old child battling with brain cancer. According to the 9-year-old Judith Nsofwa of Kuta village in Luwengu district, her husband abandoned her when the daughter was about 6 months old. Now overwhelmed with upkeep, she took to the media asking for assistance. Now the government, through the Department of Social Welfare in Wingu District, has pledged to include her on the social cash transfer scheme under the Food Security Pack. The Department of Social Welfare has also gifted Ms. Nsofa a bicycle to ease her frequent movements to the hospital. She has thanked the Social Welfare Office in the district for the gesture and called on other well-wishers to come on board.
Sendo mwana kumtwala ku kliniki leno kula mtwala ku ficho foi kalanja filisha yomkwe awe ndento terafe kuli government bafya yanja filisha na totela sana lisarundi po bakafilisha kuna babi na totela sana fone ngalombo kunja kwa bantu efombo etipa kwa timana alefa kuya ku skulu futsale kwa ika kwikala anjafilisha kumkwikaliza kwa mwana.
For Camnet TV News, Afias Kaptula.
The National Action for Quality Education in Zambia, NACEZ, has declared that the 2023 national budget totally failed to fulfill the promises that were made to teachers in the country. The organization's executive director, Aaron Chansa, says that the Minister of Finance and National Planning, Stumbegom Sokotwane, assured to provide for funds to confirm all teachers who had acted for many years. Mr. Chansa further recalls that the minister also announced that the 2023 budget would gazette newly established secondary schools and enable the Treasury to upgrade the schools. The NACEZ executive director is disappointed that these two thorny issues have not been resolved up to now, and thousands of teachers have continued to act and no one is providing hope to them, thus reflecting a lack of budget credibility. He has implored the minister to explain why the education sector commitments have not been fulfilled. He expects that the government will allocate more than 20% of the total 2024 national budget to the education sector.
He regrets to announce that the 2023 national budget has totally failed to motivate our teachers. The nation would remember that last year, the Minister of Finance emphatically promised teachers that all of them would be confirmed, those that were acting without being confirmed. But up to now, thousands of our teachers are still acting without being confirmed in those substantive positions. No one is giving them hope. We think that before the minister presents the next budget, it's important that he addresses our teachers. Addressing our teachers is not just important to the teachers, but it is also going to save the image of the president. It will also save the image of government and also save the integrity of the budget. Otherwise, the teachers are not happy. They were promised, they believed the promise, but up to now, this is not happening. For the 2024 budget, we are expecting that government is going to allocate not less than 20% to the education sector. Because of the debt restructuring, we expect more funding to education. Zambia has been offending a lot of dictates contained in most international and regional educational binding treaties. This year we are sitting at 13.9% funding to education. We need to begin to obey these dictates so that Zambia can begin to fund education accordingly, in order for the Minister of Education to buy more books, employ more teachers, buy more desks, and make sure that teachers are motivated, creating the necessary environments necessary for teaching and learning in our schools.
Retired Archbishop of the Catholic Diocese of Lusaka, Most Reverend Bishop TELESPHORE MPUNDU, is saddened with the statement attributed to Chief Justice MUMBA MALILA, calling for respect for gay rights. The Archbishop Emeritus adds that the remarks by the Chief Justice are immoral and do not reflect Zambian moral values. And Archbishop Emeritus MPUNDU notes that the education system in the country has contributed to the high poverty levels in the country. Vincent Perry reports.
This is a statement attributed to the head of the judiciary, the Chief Justice, Dr. MALILA, which has received wide condemnation from the various stakeholders and the general citizenry. Retired Archbishop of the Catholic Diocese of Lusaka, His Grace Most Reverend TELESPHORE MPUNDU, says the remarks by the Chief Justice are immoral and un-Zambian.
This is a national year of shame, especially when we get things, from the Chief Justice. Terrible. A human being is created in the image and likeness of God. That's what we are as human beings. It's a shame, a national year of shame, of politics that have no guidance to this nation, which is going through problems of poverty, jobs, and so on and so forth.
Archbishop MPUNDU, on the other hand, has blamed the Zambian education system of contributing to poverty levels in the country. He says the education system does not train learners for the industry.
The kind of education system that we have is useless. It makes young people just not useful at all, because it is not geared towards giving skills to young people. This is why you have the poverty levels. I don't know.
Emeritus Archbishop TELESPHORE MPUNDU says there is need to restructure the education system so that learners are specialized from childhood. According to the Zambia Statistics Agency, the 2022 poverty assessment of the country revealed that about 60% of the citizens are poor, up from 54% in 2015. Vincent Piri for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
Environmental conservationist Robert Chimambo has urged the government to utilize the carbon tax for environmental protection through avenues such as the Constituency Development Fund, CDF. Mr. Chimambo regrets that carbon tax since its inception has not been used for the intended purpose of environmental protection, as funds are diluted with other taxes and channeled to other areas. Speaking in an interview with Camnet News, Mr. Chimambo said properly mobilizing funds from avenues such as carbon tax can enable the country to own its environmental protection drive as opposed to depending on foreign donors. More in the following report.
The new innovation that the European government has done of constituency funds, let's get the carbon tax to go to the constituencies to see how we can develop or enhance conservation. Long term, we do the planning, all the rivers, for instance. If there's a small catchment river there, sub-catchment under the Water Act, we create a management plan for those using the carbon tax. Because water, conservation of our environment starts at community level. And that is where we also did our students to do research, how we can integrate our indigenous conservation system of just, the Malendes, in Western Province, the way they look after the fisheries, the lagoons, the Mukanda, Mwarule, Imishitu, where we bury our chief. All those, we must study them long term and incorporate them in the management of our, not management, conservation. Management is a small concept in which, conservation of our land.
Some opposition Patriotic Front members of Parliament have described the appointment of Dr. Ron MWAMBA as Auditor General as unconstitutional and illegal on account of age. On Monday, 25th September 2023, President Hakainde Hichilema announced the appointment of the 63-year-old Ron MWAMBA as a new Auditor General against the laws of Zambia. Meanwhile, Shiwangandu Member of Parliament Stephen Kampyongo has challenged President Hichilema to reshuffle and make changes in ministries like the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Health if the changes at the Ministry of Information and Media are based on incompetence. Details in the following report.
Opposition Patriotic Front members of Parliament today, Wednesday 27 September 2023, held a press briefing to address matters of national importance ranging from reshuffles made by President Hakainde Hichilema to the headline in one of the local publications that sparked debate this week, where the head of the judiciary is quoted to be calling for respect for gay rights. Lukasha Member of Parliament George Sanga and his counterpart from Federal Constituency Emmanuel Tembo condemned the remarks by the Chief Justice MUMBA.
There are some lawyers or legal practitioners or trained lawyers who have also voiced their support for Mr. Malila. But I can tell you that from reading what Dr. Malila had said and what they themselves are saying, that two different positions. They are supporting him for something that he didn't even say. So, look, Mr. Malila has tried to clarify this position. But now we have an agenda item that we have to deal with as a nation. Because those who belong to the minority have taken this as a very important topic for discussion, and they would like to invite the public now to begin to discuss it. We would like to state that we've stated before as a Patriotic Front that we do not support gay rights.
The coming in of Kamala Harris in Ghana, Tanzania and Zambia was purely for that purpose. But in Zambia, because as opposition, we took a very strong stance. We preempted that, they could not raise it, but we are aware that the UPND has agreed outside with all these people to do this. And that's why you see there are people being escorted by the police campaigning for these rights. There are these things they call July Lusaka. Now, we've seen it coming from the top, just a person who's in charge of justice system. There's no law, there's no human rights issue.
On the other hand, Shiwangandu Member of Parliament Stephen Kampyongo is challenging President Hakainde Hichilema to reshuffle as many ministries which are not performing to the Zambians' expectations.
Nominee who has been appointed to serve as Auditor General does not qualify under the Constitution on account of age. So what we are asking for is not anything unusual. It's something that has happened. And so we are just requesting the President to remedy the situation by making a suitable appointment. We have had an example, Madam Lombechwe Sekunda, judge of many years, and who served as acting Chief Justice, couldn't be ratified here on account of age. And this is what we are saying to this nominee who has been appointed to serve as Auditor General. And if people are being fired, they're being fired for lack of, for being incompetent, then the President hasn't even started. Because most of the people that have failed Zambians are still in the jobs.
Meanwhile, leader of the opposition in Parliament, Brian Mundubire, is accusing Republican President Hakainde Hichilema of failing to uphold the constitution of the land.
The supremacy of the Constitution and duty of all leaders is to uphold the nation's fundamentals and values. If you hear from the discussions, basically we have two main subjects today. We are talking about the comment that came from the Chief Justice on LGBTQ rights. We are also talking about the appointment of the Auditor General. So the role that we have as leaders, as political leaders, is to uphold our fundamental values and principles. The President does not like Article 252. We want to remind the President, it is the law as it is, not the law as it ought to be.
Vincent Piri for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security Jack Mwembo has urged all law enforcement institutions in the country to take advantage of existing cybersecurity laws to collaborate with the Zambia Information Communications Technology Authority ZICTA to fight crime. Speaking when he officiated at the graduation of 347 immigration assistants intake of 2023 at Lilai in Lusaka, Mr. Mwembo said he is excited to note that part of the training for the officers included information communication technologies, ICTs, which is key in modern security operations. He adds that the government recognizes the importance of an efficient immigration department to national development, which is why it quickly embarked on the recruitment of 347 officers to respond to human resource challenges in the establishment. Meanwhile, Department of Immigration Director General Japhet Lishoma has urged the new officers to be disciplined, as the service is not only of a security nature but also a face of interaction to Zambia's visitors, tourists as well as would-be investors.
347 immigration assistants have passed out at a craft event held at Lilai Police Training College in Lusaka Wednesday morning. The assistants are part of efforts to improve staffing levels in the department following Cabinet's approval of the proposed restructured establishment. Divisional Commander, Zambia Police Training College, Lilai, Desmond Mwanza, highlighted some of the courses covered in the training as well as some challenges faced.
Communication skills, human resource management, terms and conditions of service, immigration law, information technology, self-defense and health living. Phase 2 comprised of immigration criminal law, citizenship and refugee law, human trafficking law. Notable among them was inadequate teaching equipment, materials such as projectors and laptops, and the continuous general need to rehabilitate the existing infrastructure, such as barracks, classrooms, and ablution blocks.
Zambia Police Training College, Department of Immigration Director General Jafet Rishomwa, said the new immigration officers will contribute in reducing staffing challenges.
Reforms. The addition to our staff strength could not have come at a better time than when we are facing a high increase in regular migratory flows, the majority of which involve migrants from the Horn of Africa, whose movements are facilitated by highly sophisticated transnational syndicates. Zambia is the source, transit, destination, and destination country for human trafficking and smuggling networks. The increased staff numbers will also help us strengthen post-entry management, especially in the wake of the waiving of visa requirements for 43 countries.
Officiating at the event, Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security Jack Mwimbu urged the new officers to desist from engaging themselves in corruption.
Visit Zambia. Your interaction will give a reflection on how we intend to accept investors and tourists in this country. There, as you go to your various duty stations, I urge you to apply yourselves effectively and endeavor to add value to the institutions and the country at large.
Mr. Mwimbu has since urged law enforcement institutions in the country to make use of information communication technologies in the fight against crimes. Meanwhile, the pass-out saw some officers being awarded for outstanding performances during the training. For Camnet TV News, Afias Kaptula, Lusaka.
The Food Reserve Agency, FRA, has paid out 1,920,876,160 kwacha to farmers that delivered Grade A white maize during this year's ongoing crop marketing season. FRA Public Relations Coordinator John Chipandwe says the amount 1.9 billion is for the total quantity of maize purchased as at 25th September 2023, which is 343,013.60 metric tons. Mr. Chipandwe says this is equivalent to 6,860,272 by 50 kilogram bags of white maize. He says following the agency's decision to start paying cash on the spot to farmers that supply maize, a total of 1,796.20 metric tons has been purchased.
The Food Reserve Agency has paid out 1,920,876,160 kwacha to farmers that delivered Grade A white maize during this year's ongoing crop marketing season. Now, this amount is for the total quantity of maize purchased as at 25th September 2023, which is 343,013.60 metric tons. So this, in simple terms, is equivalent to 6,860,272 by 50 kilogram bags. Further, Following the agency's decision to start paying cash on the spot to farmers that supply maize, a total of 1,796.20 metric tons has been purchased. This is equivalent to 35,924 by 50 kilogram bags, which is worth 10,058,720 kwacha. The agency is still calling upon farmers that still have maize to deliver their stock to the nearest FRA depot and contribute in sustaining national food security. The marketing season is still in progress, and farmers countrywide are therefore encouraged to continue supplying their crops to the nearest FRA depot and get paid immediately.
We'll take a break. We'll have more news waiting for you after the break.
In our quest to save nations and develop Africa, Savenda is investing in the agriculture sector so as to produce supply for both local and international markets, housing over 12,000 pullets that are nurtured and fed with our locally made stock feed that comes from our own locally grown maize and soya beans, all processed from our recently installed milling and mixing plant. Our over 95,000 layers have an output capacity of over 1,500 trays of fresh eggs per day that are carefully selected and packaged for all the leading stores and supermarkets nationwide. Our greenhouses are fitted with the latest irrigation system, and the seedlings are nurtured to ensure only healthy plants reach the fields. With our deliberate planting schedule, we are better placed to supply constantly without interruption, thus reliable. Savenda Farms is also changing lives of its dedicated workforce drawn from the local community and beyond. So the next time you think fresh and green, think Savenda Farms.
Deborah, have you connected to the Wi-Fi on the bus? It's fast, it's amazing. I've just downloaded my books and I'm about to complete the series. It's nice, too, me.
No, I'm actually watching a reality show. He's about to propose. Oh, so sweet.
Make your trip seem short yet comfortable and safe when you use the UBZ luxurious fully air-conditioned coaches that come fitted with amazing onboard entertainment, passenger information services, coffee-making facilities and fridge for your hot and cold beverages, free and interrupted Wi-Fi for your gadgets, phone charging facilities, comfortable seats that recline to offer extra resting posture, safety seat belts, adjustable reading lights for each traveling client, and of course, clean flushing toilets for your convenience. So travel in luxury and safety with UBZ luxurious coaches. UBZ will always take you there.
It's not by the efforts of one, but by the combined efforts of many. You're going to reach people that nobody else can reach. The glory of God's going to run through this land.
And there's nothing the devil can do to stop it.
I come and light a fire and watch it burn. God's not finished with Africa. The Lord will forge in you that which He wants you to do. God has raised you up for this hour.
That's a report I was given. Ati sayendako bosi ati mzako muntu ekani tupumuleko please tulina mabanja knife Speta chambe nyambo konkera, because if I don't go to their doorsteps, the relation is a sira. Better vis-a-vis. Let me start dealing with this vis-a-vis. I'm a doorstep. Head on.
At your doorstep. Time 11 hours to 12 hours every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and repeats from 18 to 19 hours every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Charlie over there, you go
Welcome back. We continue with our news. The Industrial Development Corporation, IDC, has inaugurated the new board of directors for the Zambia Railways Limited. Speaking at the inauguration ceremony on Wednesday morning, Lungowe Longwani, who represented the IDC management, says the vision of IDC is to have a modernized railway company with improved operational efficiencies, service delivery standards, as well as profitability. Meanwhile, new Zambia Railways Limited board chairperson Emmanuel Hachipuka reiterated the significant role that the railways play in the economy and has pledged to revamp the company.
The vision of the IDC is to have a modernized ZRL with improved operational efficiencies, service delivery standards, and profitability. With a modernized facility, ZRL can conceive and implement a well-developed business and operational strategy that will enable ZRL to achieve a level of operational and management excellence that will enhance railway transport efficiencies within the SADC region, with the country of Zambia and as its most important transnational hub. Our expectations of the board, among other primary responsibilities, is to represent the government and shareholders' interests in the transformation trajectory for ZRL. Distinguished board members, this board will play a pivotal role in our efforts to position ZRL as the key player in transforming Zambia into a transport hub.
With the real support from the President and his government, and the Minister of Transport and Logistics, the Minister of Finance and National Planning, Industrial Development Corporation, and indeed the banking and business sectors, a positive contribution to the President's efforts in rebuilding Zambia will be made by this board. It is only through this effort of rebuilding Zambia railways shall we be able to save this country's infrastructure, such as the roads, that will in turn save us a lot of money from road maintenance and also create employment for our citizens.
The Zambia Public Procurement Authority, ZPPA, has signed a memorandum of understanding with 4 training service providers aimed at facilitating various forms of stakeholders' engagement. Speaking during the signing of the MOU, ZPPA Director General Ida Chela says the objective of the MOU is to provide a framework for cooperation and coordination between the parties concerning training in procurement and supply chain management. Mrs. Chela says the authority will have a monitoring plan for the training courses that will be offered by the training service providers. She reiterates that the authority will monitor the course dates, time schedule, location, and instructors for all courses. The 4 training service providers include RKB Consult, Copperbelt University, Olympus Management Consultancy Limited, and Simanote Solution and Consultancy Limited. Meanwhile, Sinamote Solution and Consultancy Limited Director Siweso Kwilimba says the initiative is critical not only to ZPPA organizational mandate but to the government as a whole.
Public procurement is viewed as one of the enablers of economic development. It plays a crucial role as it involves government purchases of goods, services, and works which stimulate economic growth, foster innovation, create job opportunities, and support local industries. Wednesday, the Zambia Public Procurement Authority signed a memorandum of understanding with 4 training service providers, the Copperbelt University, Olympus Management Consultants Limited, and Simanote Solution and Consultants Limited. The objective of the MOU is aimed at providing a framework for cooperation and coordination between the parties concerning training in procurement and supply chain management, and to partner with the Zambia Public Procurement Authority so as to provide facilitation in various forms of stakeholders' engagement programs. Zambia Public Procurement Authority, according to the Act, is responsible for policy, regulation, standard setting, compliancy and performance information management and dissemination in the field of public procurement.
As need arises. Ladies and gentlemen, the objective of the MOU being signed today is to provide a framework for cooperation and coordination between the parties concerning training in supply chain management function, and to partner with ZPPA with facilitation in various forms of stakeholder engagement programs. Ladies and gentlemen, the signing of the MOU will be with 4. Ideally, they are supposed to be 5, but one of the service providers has not come, that is the Copper Belt University. So we'll just do 3. As you can see, the 3 who are here. We have ACB Consult there. Then we have Olympus Management represented here. And we have Simanot Solutions and Consultants represented here. And some of the responsibilities of the training service provider will be to supply participants with training and evaluation.
Meanwhile, Simanot Solution and Consultants Limited Director Sives Okwilimba says the initiative is critical not only to the Zambia Public Procurement Authority organization.
I would like to express our gratitude to ZPPA management for initiating this partnership and cooperation in building capacity of procurement, supply chain management in the public sector. Madam Director General, this initiative is very critical, not only to your organization's mandate, but government as a whole. As you may be aware, public procurement is viewed as one of the enablers of economic development, and therefore the training in public procurement is important in addressing the economic challenges that our government faces today. We are hopeful that this partnership and cooperation we have witnessed today shall be a cornerstone in improving the much needed improved capacity.
Miriam Kaimba reporting for Camnet TV News.
Government says there is need to invest massively in the arts and creative sector. Ministry of Youth, Sports and Arts Permanent Secretary for the Art Component, Fumba Chama, says the creative sector has potential to rake in a lot of revenue. And Mr. Chama says the government has prioritized the development of the National Arts Policy, which will see artists benefiting from their hard work. He added that some components of the policy is an upside for artists, as they too deserve to earn from their hard work. He was speaking Wednesday morning when he graced the Legends Music Festival press briefing slated for Saturday, 30th September.
One of the biggest challenges that we have is data that communicates the economic value that creativity or the creative sector brings to the GDP of this country. I interfaced with data that's already sitting somewhere, and we were said that we contribute about 0.04% to the national GDP, which is not true. But that is the figure, that is the data that is there. So now for us to put up an economic argument, you need data that is sufficient to convince whoever is allocating money to say, if you put money here, you're not throwing money. This is not social cash transfer. To do that, one, we would need to speak to our artists to pay taxes in a very categorized and explicit fashion, that tomorrow the details or the data should say that this is how much we make from the creative sector. And if we give them more money, they can bring in more money. I don't know if that makes sense. So from a social sector as it is, or as it was that we just for, because at a change, oh, okay, our conversation now is that we're not a social sector. Yes, we may be a social sector, but we're also an economic sector. It speaks to a lack of data.
Tourism Minister Rodney Sikumba has called for the need for green growth as a balance between investment in the tourism sector and environmental conservation. Speaking when he graced the Tourism Investment Forum at the World Tourism Day celebrations today, the minister said this will enable the country's biodiversity to remain intact, as it will contribute to sustainable development and improve the well-being of the Zambian people. He says rapid investment in the tourism sector may lead to environmental challenges such as climate change, habitat destruction and resource depletion, which he states cannot be ignored. The Livingstone Member of Parliament, however, noted that the tourism sector presents a wide array of investment opportunities for infrastructure and job creation, which should be exploited by both local and international investors. And Tourism Permanent Secretary Evans Mohanga says the tourism sector has potential to grow through massive investment in key areas, such as the hospitality infrastructure.
Beautiful countries on the continent that each and every investor is likely to come to is that of Zambia. And I think we have an opportunity as Zambians to take advantage of opportunities that come with green growth, and any potential investment that you're going to come up with should be eco-friendly, as well as making sure that you restore the biodiversity.
A future where our region becomes a premier tourist destination, known for its natural beauty, cultural richness, and sustainable practices. Together, we can turn this vision into a reality.
We'll take a second and final break. Join us for international sports news after the break.
It's not by the efforts of one, but by the combined efforts of many. You're going to reach people that nobody else can reach. The glory of God's going to run through this land.
And there's nothing the devil can do to stop it.
I come and light a fire and watch it burn. God's not finished with Africa. The Lord will forge in you that which He wants you to do. God has raised you up for this hour.
Water is life. Each drop counts and each must be cherished. Our tried and tested product meets all international standards. With our smart drip technology, we aim to deliver precision irrigation designed to reduce blockage and wastage, ensuring a high yield. RenGlow, your smart irrigation partner.
Science dark after formula and they fatigue. That's a report I was given. Science dark was Ati science dark bossy. Ati mizako muntu. Eka ni tupumuleko please. Tulina banja knife. Speta chambe ni ambo konkera. Because if I don't go to their doorsteps, the relation is a sira. Better vis-a-vis. Let me start dealing with this vis-a-vis. I'm a doorstep. Head on.
At your doorstep. Time 11 hours to 12 hours every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. And repeats from 18 to 19 hours every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Camnet Television, not just another channel.
Charlie over there. You go.
Welcome back. And now in news beyond our borders, former South African President Nelson Mandela is just one of many prominent politicians born in the province of Eastern Cape. Still, it is one of the poorest parts of the country. It has been 30 years since the end of apartheid, and many families are still waiting for the conditions to improve. Meanwhile, Pope Francis said on Wednesday that the Mediterranean Sea must not become a place of conflict. Here's a roundup of international news.
MALILA says she was born in 1958. That's 36 years before apartheid ended in South Africa. When the governing African National Congress took power in 1994, politicians promised to address racial disparities in land ownership, services and housing. MALILA is still waiting for her free brick house built by the government.
My family stays here in this house. It is not strong and it can collapse at any time.
There are people who have received free housing from the state. Andisa Jilaje is one of them. She said goodbye to her mud house 2 years ago.
I'm not happy in this house because it's very, very small.
But now I'm so happy because we've got a big house. I'm so happy now.
Local officials say nearly half the people in this ward in the Eastern Cape province now live in proper structures.
If you have ever stayed in a mud house, you do not know what really you will do during the rainy season. You know, the house might fall. We used to have disasters here where houses were falling, and we used to have people who have to be placed in community halls. And now we no longer have those because we are trying by all means to speed up the process.
There are other challenges: unemployment and service delivery. People used to get water from a reservoir, but the pump was stolen more than 4 years ago and hasn't been replaced. And until services improve, they now have to use these shared taps. Some people choose to leave rural areas to find opportunities in towns and cities. Many of them end up staying in informal settlements where electricity is illegally connected to their shacks, which then catch fire. That's what happened here. The Eastern Cape is the birthplace of several prominent politicians, including Nelson Mandela. But millions here are still waiting for that better life they were promised at independence nearly 30 years ago.
South Africa's Foreign Minister, Naledi Pandor, has been welcomed to Washington for bilateral talks. Pandor was received by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who hailed the partnership between the U.S. and South Africa amid a perceived strain in relations over Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
South Africa is a vital and valued partner for the United States. We have lots to discuss with regard to regional issues, but also our own relationship, the work we're doing together on everything from climate to energy to infrastructure to health.
South Africa's ambassadors in the Americas are also gathered in Washington to receive the foreign minister for talks on relations with countries in the hemisphere. South Africa is the largest U.S. trade partner in Africa, with approximately 600 American businesses operating in the country.
The United States of America features as one of the most important partners for South Africa, so I'm thrilled that we have the opportunity to catch up and to give you some sense of what's happening in Southern Africa and broadly on the continent.
The visit of Pandor comes amid a tremendous strain on the strategic partnership between South Africa and the U.S. since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The South African government has been unwilling to demand that Russia unilaterally put an end to hostilities and withdraw its forces from Ukraine.
Pope Francis said on Wednesday the Mediterranean Sea must not be turned into a tomb and a place of conflict. He made the comments during his weekly audience with the faithful in St. Peter's Square, as he was describing his visit to the French port city of Marseille last weekend for a meeting to discuss the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean is the cradle of civilization, and a cradle is for life. It is not tolerable that it becomes a tomb, neither should it be a place of conflict. No, the Mediterranean Sea is the complete opposite of the clash between civilizations, war, human trafficking. It is the exact opposite. The Mediterranean is a means of communication between Africa, Asia and Europe, between the North and the South, the East and the West, persons and cultures, peoples and tongues, philosophies and religions. Francis also gave a short message to Polish pilgrims, urging them to continue to help Ukrainian refugees ahead of Poland's elections on October 15th.
In sports news tonight, the Confederations of African Football (CAF) has announced that Morocco will host the 2025 African Cup of Nations finals. CAF has also announced that the 2027 edition will be co-hosted by Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania. Zambia had initially wanted to host the 2025 edition, But FARS confirmed on Wednesday morning that they had decided to do a joint bid with Botswana for the 2027 edition. The Zambian government joined forces with their Botswana counterparts to submit a joint bid for the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations. Permanent Secretary at Cabinet Office in charge of special duties, Chembo Mbola, led a Zambian delegation in Cairo that comprised FARS officials and government staff. The joint bid with Botswana faced competition from Tanzania, Uganda, Kenya, bidding as a group, Nigeria, Benin bidding jointly, Senegal, Egypt, and Algeria, among others. CAF, however, announced that the 2027 AFCON will be jointly hosted by Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda.
The country that EXCO has voted for to host the AFCON 2027 is well, we have to show, okay? It's Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Okay, can we clap hands for them, please? Let's clap hands for them. Wallace, I think, Wallace, you want to give your head of state this. So I just want to say it is the first time in a very, very long time that CECAFA, because I think the last time CECAFA hosted was in Ethiopia, right? Ethiopia, 1975, 76. Anyway, but the beauty is, if you look at the presentation that was made, you had all of the heads of state, President Ruto, President Museveni, President, our Madam Salim, what? Samia. And all of them were expressing their deep, deep commitment. And so we are very excited. I just want to say one final thing. We are very strict. We can sit down because we are leaving. We're very strict in terms of the requirements that we are placing on these countries, both in terms of freedom of movement of people in and out of the countries, and the support, the infrastructure, the cooperation. And we will be sending teams on an ongoing basis to form an evaluation of the progress that's been made. But because the key is, we are absolutely determined to maintain the highest possible standards for African football.
And now to end Camnet television news, the top stories once again. Bishop TELESPHORE MPUNDU questions Chief Justice MUMBA MALILA over gay rights endorsement allegations. The opposition Patriotic Front rejects the appointment of MWAMBA as Auditor General. The state asked the court to dismiss a case questioning President Hakainde Hichilema's foreign trips. In international news, many families in South Africa are grappling with poverty. And in sports news, Morocco to host the 2025 African Cup of Nations finals. Our Camnet verse of the day comes from the book of Luke 6, verse 20 to 21. Looking at his disciples, he said, "Blessed are you who are poor, for yours is the kingdom of God. Blessed are you who hunger now, for you will be satisfied. Blessed are you who weep now, for you will laugh." Thank you once again for watching Camnet Television Main News. My name is Jeffrey Siambo. Good night.